Hey, hey. Is anyone still here? So sorry. It says 11, so who's here? You still here, Fred Floss? Ella? Amber? Come back, Amber. Baby, come back. The oil farmer's wife. Hello, I've never seen that name before. Hello. Well, I'm going to start. I'm going to play some things from the Idaho 4 murders, the college kids. There's just been some new stuff, and I just want to listen to it, and I haven't, and so listen to it with you all. Hey, sis. Mark. Hey, y'all. I love y'all. I'm just gonna watch some of the Idaho 4 stuff and go over it. Stuff I've not watched, but it's like new stuff, and so I wait and watch it with you all on live because I like going live. So here we go. I love y'all, sis. I hope y'all are okay.
Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. It's now been 3 weeks and law enforcement has still not made an arrest in the 4 University of Idaho students' murders. Over the weekend, we heard from Kaylee's family quite a bit, and in one of their interviews, Kaylee's mother said that she felt certain suspects were cleared too soon. This morning, I came across an article where Kaylee's father, Steve, actually talks about who he thinks was cleared too soon. This comes to us from the New York Post. It was published just this morning, so I will link the article in the description below. The grieving father of murdered University of Idaho student Kaylee Goncalves is working with his own private investigators because he fears cops in the major case are too inexperienced. Steve raised his fears Sunday in an exclusive interview with the Post, saying he was also concerned that one suspicious character had been ruled out too quickly, seemingly allowing him to flee the country without taking a DNA test. He lashed out at the lack of leads coming from cops who backtracked on claims that the killer appeared to be targeting at least one of the 4 roommates and had yet to even suggest a profile of the likely slasher. One of the murder squad officers is only 26, he complained, meaning he was only 19 when the sleepy city of Moscow last had a slaying in 2015. So they're just inexperienced, and I don't want anyone making mistakes in my child's case. Also, blasting the officers as not exactly the most tech savvy people. As well as his own fears, Goncalves said with private investigators because there were enough insiders telling us we should be concerned about the lack of any clear leads in the November 13th murders of his 21-year-old daughter and her 3 friends. I talked to detectives, he said, making clear he was keeping away from the internet sleuths whom he dismissed as Hollywood shit. One of the private detectives I talked to has 50 years in the game, he said of his outside help. The gumshoe told him that he had to break cases when there wasn't DNA, suggesting younger cops rely on it too much. Trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, he said of police investigators. The grieving dad still hopes cops will be heroes and prove him wrong by ultimately emerging with breakthroughs that solve the case. I'll apologize. I'll come out and say these guys had amazing DNA or some evidence and good for them. I was giving them shit and I take it back. I'd love to be wrong and we can get this guy, he told the Post. Goncalves said he is only speaking out because of his alarm at the lack of leads, including the refusal to release an official profile of the likely slasher in the November 13th attack. That would give all these other girls that are walking around that community somebody to look out for. Don't make more victims, he warned. He admitted that he also fears that a hoodie-wearing man spotted lingering near his daughter and her best friend Madison Mogen, also 21, was ruled out too quickly for killing the pair and their two friends. Some people came to us and said that he's out of the country. He didn't take a DNA test, he said. So we would
Okay, and about the hoodie guy, I agree with her here. If somebody could drop Conspiracy's link in the chat, please, because I'm on my computer. Thank you. But I agree with Kaylee's dad completely. Everything he said, and he's right. Something's not right, and they're not telling nothing, and that's not fair to the parents. So now here's Kaylee's dad speaking out. People want to get pissed because he's speaking out. Well, he tried to get it, the right way. He has this information that he's held back. He tried to get it just to get some damn answers for his daughter, and I don't blame him. I'd be raising hell too. Fuck yeah. And I agree there's something with this hoodie guy. If you watch like the full video, because they came up on the right side of the computer screen, and he was behind them, behind Kaylee and Madison. He was right behind them. And then he stepped back to the side. He never ordered food. He never done nothing. Kaylee and Madison left. He left right when they left, and that was it. Crazy. I don't know. There's a city guy, and they keep. No, Kaylee's father's right. He's right.
We would like the police to tell us what his alibi was, he said, saying he would be able to move on to friends. Some people came to us and said that he's out of It also fears a hood-wearing man spotted lingering near his daughter and her best friend Madison Mogen, also 21, was ruled out too quickly for killing the pair and friends. Some people came to us and said that he's out of the country. He didn't take a DNA test, he said. So we would like the police to tell us what his alibi was, he said, saying he would be able to move on if they could confirm it was solid. So apparently this is whose alibi he's wanting to know. Vague, mixed messaging on whether the killer likely targeted at least one of the four roommates and why could also lead to a dangerously false sense of security, he warned. I've heard people talk to reporters and say that they'd be way more scared if it wasn't targeted. Some people think that means they, the victims, were gambling, or they were doing drugs, or they were doing something that really made them the killer come after them of the last info. My message is, I think I've your girlfriend going home and crashing on the bed together. I think a lot of girls that said his daughter and who were in the same bed a lot if that was his best friend really to death along with Anna Komodo, boyfriends and Jason, the one who were in the bed on the floor. Two other roommates were sleeping on the floor of the Moscow unharmed and likely slept said. Goncalves bluntly admitted on Fox Sunday that he does not feel competent in the investigation. I sat down with the investigator and I looked in his eyes and I got that this guy was going to do everything in his power to get to figure something out. The evidence isn't there. That's the part I'm concerned about. And that's why the envelope said a little more than police want him to public on what he gets told. Every job is the role of the parent. The muscle department was doing his and it did not mean
Hey y'all, I don't know what happened. I got kicked out of StreamYard for some reason, and I didn't know it. Fuck. Okay, so we'll continue. Hold on just a second. I don't know what the fuck happened. I'm back. And if Ahmad could share these links, I'll leave the screen to where you can see the channel because I want the channel to get the credit. Totally go give them a thumbs up and subscribe. Conspiracy, she's awesome. I can't say her name right, but she's awesome. She gets a lot of good information. Check her out.
Just so heartbreaking what these families are going through. I had the chance to sit down with the Gonzalez family in Kaylee's home. Their loss, it is so heavy, and they have been vocal about their relentless search for justice and frustrations with the investigation. Here is part one of our conversation.
You know, she was hurt so bad that she was not able to recover. That is just terrible.
Oh, it's okay.
It's terrible. I cannot fathom in my head what kind of person did this.
It's capable.
And why. I can't sleep at night. I lay in bed pondering just millions of different scenarios. And just, I want to know, but then there's stuff obviously you don't want to know, but
You just
I think I want to know it all. And
You're okay.
I just don't understand why. How somebody can take somebody, four of them. It wasn't just my girl, just so savagely.
Is anyone acting differently since the murders? I mean, is there anyone that you have a weird feeling about that the girls knew or that comes to mind?
Yeah, I would say not in the immediate circle by any means, but a few of the names that have been circulating around, I think it's hard not to kind of, dig into this. And I don't know how much of that is just because we have so little information from law enforcement and how much of it really is, a sister or a father's intuition.
Can you elaborate at all? I don't know. You don't have to give a name, but I mean, is it someone that she knew or?
I have something to say about that. I just feel like there's been a couple individuals that were cleared very fast. That may not, maybe should not have been. And yeah,
Share the strong alibi.
just really fast.
If you can dismiss,
an hour later, and we're like, what? And I don't know. I don't know anything about those individuals. I just know they were people that, definitely should have been looked at. And yeah.
I don't know what would prevent you from sharing somebody's alibi.
Yeah, I think that's what we're struggling with. So it's like, we know what we know. We've, fought for Jack, Kaylee's boyfriend, and, we still stand that way. So I did just kind of want to clear that up while we're talking through this ambiguity that, that's not what we're honing in on here.
We don't want to make more victims out of innocent people.
Exactly.
We definitely don't want to do that.
No.
You've mentioned before that you didn't want to have a funeral right now because the killer's still out there. Is that something that you're still thinking about? Are you nervous at all? I mean, because in Moscow, we talk to students. People are really nervous there.
They should be.
Yeah.
This targeted to me, it seems behavior based. That's why I don't like it, and it kind of pits the parents against each other. So I don't like that. I just told some of the other parents today that if your daughter is no ill will from me, man. To me, if you go have a couple beers or go out and hang out with your friends and then come home and go to bed, if that's your target, then I think we all do that. I think we all come home and go to our beds.
It's all target.
Yeah. So
it's kind of a bad word then. It doesn't really make sense in some ways.
Exactly.
Even the prosecutor told me that.
Yeah.
He said, I think it was kind of a weird word to choose.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if it makes sense if there was some bad behavior that they did, let's say, I don't know, they came from a strip club or something, and then somebody followed them home. That's a targeted thing. That's what comes. I've had innocent people that were interviewed that were their neighbors, and they said, I'd be a lot more scared if it wasn't targeted.
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing anything to target me. And I'm like, well, if targeting's just going to bed with your friends,
So maybe that was just a way to calm people down.
I feel like it was strategic.
Yeah.
It was a strategic way to keep people from hitting the door, transferring out, and turning that place into a ghost town. So,
You never think you're going to lose your little sister,
yeah.
Yeah.
ever. You never think you're going to have to bury your daughter.
Absolutely unbelievable. It's nothing. Nothing compared to the pain that I feel.
Yeah.
Losing Kaylee. And I don't know. It's several things. It's her age. It's how it happened.
So life
Why it happened. Who did this to her?
just graduated.
Who did this to her and her friends? The fact that she was with her best friend. I mean, since they were little girls.
Thank you so much for watching. Please do me a favor and like this video, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon to get notifications for when I post.
Male, somebody who could get into the house and get out in that neighborhood without being seen.
Someone who knew the victim or victims, knew the layout of the house, knew how to get entry into the house. There was no indication of forced entry. No.
I don't think it was two people, because more people went into that house, the more likely that it is they were going to be seen. So I think one male had to have been in that neighborhood.
He had to be somewhat confident that
This is Reporter Room.
Hey, everybody coming in. Megs, Panthera, Sweet and Wicked.
Today, talk about and masked doorbell camera guy. Are these two people related, or is this just another internet rumor? We're going to start with Jeremy Reagan. Jeremy Reagan is a neighbor. He lives near the house where Ethan, Maddie, Kaylee, and Zena were all done away with. And he has been making the rounds doing multiple interviews. And basically, now he's concerned because a lot of people who have watched his interviews are beginning to view him as a potential suspect. And to be fair, I don't think he's done himself any favors by doing the interviews, because many people are watching him and they feel like his affect is off, his smiling is inappropriate in places, and he's setting off alarm bells for a lot of people. We've also learned that Zena's dad allegedly worked on the locks at the King Road house. So we know that whoever entered the home didn't actually break in. So either the door was unlocked or this person knew the key code. And because the door was not opened with a key, it was opened with the key code. And apparently multiple people knew the code. This house was referred to as a party house. I'm going to talk about masked doorbell guy, and we're going to dig a little bit more into Jeremy Reagan in just a moment, so please stay with me. Everything I'm sharing with you today is my opinion, and opinions are not facts, so please don't send any negativity to anyone. Let's be kind and good to each other. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up so I know you were here. So it's been reported that there's a masked man, and here's his photo, who in weeks leading up to the murders went around in the area and he was ringing doorbells and trying door handles. This masked guy was captured on someone's doorbell cam while he was ringing their doorbell and trying their lock. This is really concerning because there would be no legitimate reason for someone to be at your door wearing a mask, ringing your doorbell, and trying to open your front door. In my opinion, his intentions were nefarious. We've also heard that the two roommates who survived heard what they believed to be someone or two people upstairs rummaging around, and that they allegedly locked their bedroom doors because apparently this was something that happened sometimes in this house. So why would someone be going around wearing a mask and trying people's locks? This behavior is stalkerish, it's creepy, and it fits the profile of the man who did away with Zena, Ethan, Maddie, and Kaylee. If you look at the photo, it is clearly a young male, and profilers have told us that they believe that this perpetrator was a young male between the ages of 18 and 40. Listen to this profiler.
That's the biggest thing we found out over the weekend. We were wondering if it was a kitchen knife, a knife of opportunity found on location, but it appears to be, as if you will, like a hunting knife, a Rambo-style knife is what they're referring to. They are checking with local sporting goods stores to see if one was purchased lately, so far coming up dry. But that indicates that the person who did this brought the knife with them. They haven't found it. And the style of knife, again, reflects fantasy. This person has been thinking about doing a crime like this. They're interested in the process of stabbing. It's a very process-focused crime. And person who is obsessed with knives and bloodletting.
Police do have the doorbell camera footage. So I would think that this person would definitely be a person of interest. Police have also been tracking this person down, and they believe they know who this is. So was this the same guy who entered the house and committed these heinous acts? We also know that multiple profilers believe that these slayings were targeted and that this person was fixated on a particular target in the house. And we got confirmation because Zaina's mom spoke out on Ashley Banfield and did confirm that Zaina and Ethan were asleep on the second floor. And that's where he went first. He did away with them, but he didn't stop there. He continued upstairs to where Maddie and Kaylee were sleeping together. And this is why I believe that it was Kaylee probably, but possibly also could have been Maddie, were the targets. And we know that Maddie and Kaylee were sleeping in the same room because of the phone calls to Jack. Jim Clemente, a nationally renowned profiler, believes that the killer stopped once he found his target, and that's why the two roommates who were sleeping on the first floor bedrooms, in the two bedrooms on the first floor, thankfully were left alive. Now let's get back to Jeremy Reagan. We need to be careful because we don't want to target an innocent person. And I agree with you. He's odd. His affect seems bizarre. And I am confident that law enforcement will want to rule him out. Jeremy did state that he was contacted by law enforcement. Listen to this.
Earlier today actually was the first time. Before this, they hadn't interviewed me other than that first day, a couple hours after the news broke that there was a killing there. But up until earlier today, I had contacted by the police. But then today, partly because of all the reports that people had sent in about me and the interview I did, as well as me going and talking with one of the local prosecutors about what I can do to clear my name. The officers came by my house today. They talked with me. They interviewed me. They didn't bring anything to collect DNA today, but they said, if we need you, will you come down to the station? I said, absolutely.
I don't think Jeremy Reagan has done himself any favors by giving out any interviews, but he was asked. And now he's told News Nation that he's being, quote, proactive, end quote, and he's going to the police station on Thursday to submit his DNA. I agree, his affect seems off and his smile does seem inappropriate at times.
Do it. I have nothing to hide. I'm willing to give DNA, fingerprints, whatever they need. But yeah, it's just upsetting being compared to a murderer when I didn't do anything.
And I agree. Like even when he's saying that he is upset because he's being accused of doing things, his affect is he's smiling. So his words don't match up with his facial expression. He says he's upset, but his facial expression doesn't look upset. But I would just urge caution before we jump to any conclusions on this guy. I do think that the masked doorbell camera guy is a potential suspect in this case, and we are hearing that police have identified him. So do you think that this is the man who entered the residence to target Ethan, Zaina, Maddie, and or Kaylee? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.
News Nation has also learned Kaylee Gonsalves' injuries were significantly more brutal than her friend Maddie. The two girls were found together in an upstairs room of that off-campus home, but not much else is known about the extent of their injuries, particularly the other two students who were killed in the floor below them. Joining me now to talk more about the investigation, Tracy Waller, a former CIA officer and FBI special agent, and Lauren Mathias, former news reporter and the host of the podcast Hidden, a true crime podcast. To you both, we appreciate your time this morning. There's a lot of new information coming out about the crime scene. Whether or not it's helpful or it further complicates the work for investigators is yet to be seen. But let's start with the new piece of information that Kaylee's injuries were significantly more brutal. Tracy, let me start with you. What does that tell you? Is that helpful information for investigators as they're trying to determine if she was perhaps the target?
Thank you for having me, Morny. Yes, I think that that's incredibly important information. That's something I've said all along, and that's how they would differentiate whether this was a targeted attack or not, is that one victim may have had significant overkill more so than others. And since Maddie and Kaylee this time me, that really have simple way crime of opportunity, and Kaylee really was target very critical to investigate in terms of really figuring out what the motive was, who her inner circle was, or even just outside of that inner circle. So it helps them to narrowing down the investigation to have this over on evidence.
Well, and Lauren, let me bring you in here because there's about their mass rooms. So if he was to charge these girl veterans, many describe them as being almost like sisters. They look very much alike as well. It's built and made it was likely dark. So investigators have to determine they're in the right room.
I don't know why in the hell my StreamYard keeps kicking me off. It done it again to me. What the hell? What's the last thing y'all seen? Yeah, I did get kicked again, Megs. I don't know what the fuck happened. It done it again. It just fucking takes me off and it don't give me no warning or nothing. I don't know what the hell. Hey, Yanni. Well, I'm just going to play this video of Madison's boyfriend speaking. It is on Conspiracy. If y'all could share that one. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jake. I was Maddie's boyfriend. I'd like to say thank you, everyone, for being here and just everybody involved in the investigation, helping, and everybody showing the unreal support. And yeah, it's we really appreciate it more than we can show right now. So I was Maddie's boyfriend, and she brought me closer to Xana and Kaylee. I knew Xana actually before Maddie, and I met Kaylee through Maddie, and I just, like, they always were amazing to be around. Just Xana was always so energetic and happy and just a beautiful soul. And Kaylee was always so strong and driven and just kind and really genuinely cared about everyone. I didn't get the opportunity to meet Ethan too many times, but from what I had heard from Maddie and all the other roommates, he was also a really great guy, and just none of these people deserve this. So I met Maddie her freshman year of college. We went to high school together, but I was a couple years older and didn't really get to meet her until she came to University of Idaho, and she got in to the Pi-Fi house, and I had multiple friends in there, and they just really took Maddie under their wing and just took her under their wing and were showing, like, introducing them to everybody, and just were always there for her. She was always surrounded by a good group. But yeah, so I met her actually on her bid day of her freshman year. I don't necessarily think she was supposed to go out that night, but luckily she did, and I got to meet her that night. There were times throughout that school year where we got to hang out and just I got to get to know her a little bit, but I didn't really realize that I was in love with Maddie until the summer of 2020. We went to McCall, and I got a boat that summer, and we got to spend a lot of time on the water, and we floated the river and just hung out every chance we got. And then when we went back to school, I lived in an apartment, and I would just always invite over the Pi-Fi girls to get an opportunity to hang out with Maddie. We didn't go on our first date until Valentine's Day that next school year, and we went to the Breakfast Club in Moscow, but we didn't officially start dating until April 27th that year. Maddie was a perfectionist. A good story with that would be Kaylee and Maddie's birthdays. They were like a month apart, and Maddie's came first, and she would always get frustrated because Kaylee would always go all out and just make everything perfect for her. And it was like almost like a little competition between the two who could make their birthdays better. And I guess it was a repeating thing throughout the years of them knowing each other. Maddie was the best at spreading love to all of those that were close to her. Every time I talked to her on the phone, she would end the conversation with "I love you," and I would always say it back. She was always smiling and dancing and laughing, and she was really observant of things. She would point things out that she thought were cute, which was something usually pink or tiny. She always loved being comfy. Like, if we're watching a movie or a football game or anything, she's got her comfy socks on, blanket, and was just always making the best of every situation. She was nice, she was funny, she was confident. She knew that she was she knew her worth. I had to work for her. It was worth it. Just so confident. She knew that she was beautiful inside and out, but she was also humble about it. When she asked, she was the type of person that when she asked you how your day was, it was genuine. She really wanted to know. Like when I would talk to her, she could tell me about all of her friends and what they were up to. She was just always aware of everything. She was also, she was really funny. All her jokes really would come out of nowhere, and you'd have to do like a double take. Just be like, was that the cute little blonde girl that just said that? She would always express her love to everybody, with words and hugs. She's really good hugger. She was always someone for her friends, her family, me, and just really anybody that needed advice or a shoulder to cry on, or a person to hug. Maddie was the go-to for that. She always loved like the whole process of like in Moscow, just getting ready with all of her friends. She would be helping all of them do the makeup, and I'd just be sitting on the bed observing all these girls doing what they do. So Maddie was my best friend. She was the first person I talked to every morning and the last person I talked to before bed. But I was lucky enough to be able to explore life with Maddie for about 2 years. She was the one who knew me best, and she saw me at my highs and my lows, just helped me through everything. She was always there for me, pushing me to be better and to spread positivity. I think that's what she wanted. And she was the person that I loved the most, and she loved me the most too. And I know she would want us to be strong and be as positive and happy as we can through this time, and just know that we have her watching over all of us. And I know she's in heaven, and I can't wait to see her again and just give her a big hug. That's all I got. I love you, Maddie.
That's so sad. He breaks my heart. This is all so sad.
Moment, 1 minute, one night for lives to be turned upside down.
We lost 4 beautiful souls.
The hardest part, we cannot change the outcome.
For a quiet college campus to become a crime scene.
This could be anybody. It could be anybody.
What do you say to the students who are scared?
I tell them I'm scared too.
And for a killer to seemingly vanish in the middle of the night.
There is a threat out there still.
It's all hands on deck for investigators, racing to retrace steps, comb through evidence, and stop this case from going cold.
They can break open any time.
Because it only takes one clue, one slip up, one tip.
Somebody somewhere has information about this case.
To end the nightmare.
We owe this to these young kids.
Idaho Murder Mystery, a News Nation special report, starts right now. Good evening, I'm Brian Enton, live in Moscow, Idaho, for this News Nation special report. 3 weeks ago, the unthinkable happened in this house behind me. 4 university students, brutally murdered here. Their killer not only is still on the run, but still all of this remains a mystery 3 weeks later. And we have breaking news tonight. New details that we have just confirmed. News Nation is learning that Kaylee Goncalves' injuries were significantly more brutal than her best friend Maddie's injuries, which may end up being a very, very important piece of evidence when it comes to determining who the target was in this attack. I have learned Kaylee and Maddie were in an upstairs room in the house, so the killer had to go specifically upstairs to get to them. And again, that new information just confirmed that Kaylee's injuries were, quote, significantly more brutal. That is new information that we are going to analyze coming up over the next hour. All of this really is a nightmare for this town, a nightmare that they just cannot wake up from. Over the next hour, we are going to be diving into all of the details of this case, learning more about the victims and their families, trying to make sense of this unimaginable loss here in Idaho. We're going to go take you around the crime scene, show you what it looks like, as well as an exclusive look at the Idaho State Crime Lab. And we're going to remain focused throughout all of this on the victims and their family. To try and understand how we got to this point, first, we go back to the beginning. Moscow, Idaho, a beautiful, quiet college town near the border with Washington State, blanketed in snow this time of year, and home to the University of Idaho, with 11,000 students who have almost never had a reason not to feel safe.
The worst crimes we see in town involve things like bike theft or cars getting keyed or something like that. We're a nice little artsy town that provides a great quality of life to a lot of people.
But what happened in the early morning hours of November 13th has shaken this community like never before.
I'm scared too. This is a worrying time, but we also have the ability to understand that this is just another example that crime happens and it can happen anywhere.
Fear, a college community still in shock following the brutal stabbings of 4 of their students. So many asking, how did this happen? We start on the evening of Saturday, November 12th. Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogen, where many college students spend their Saturday nights. At this local bar, the Corner Club on North Main Street in downtown Moscow. According to local law enforcement, the two were at the bar between 10 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. on November 13th. At around 1:40 a.m., Kaylee and Madison moved over to a local food truck. You can see them here on surveillance video from the Grub Truck down the street on South Main Street. News Nation has confirmed the 2 women used a private party for a ride home from downtown to their home on King Road. The home is about a mile and a half, or about a 6-minute drive from the food truck. They got home around 1:56 a.m., according to digital evidence collected by investigators. Investigators also say Kaylee and Madison made several calls to an ex-boyfriend of one of the girls 7 times, raising some eyebrows. That person has now been cleared, according to law enforcement. Kaylee Goncalves' sister spoke with News Nation's Chris Cuomo.
There's no boy problem. There's no threat. There's no high-risk lifestyle that could have indicated this. It has taken all of us completely by shock, and we have absolutely no ideas.
Another roommate, Xana Kernodle, and her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, were also out the night of November 12th. Investigators confirmed Ethan and Xana were seen at the Sigma Chi fraternity house on the University of Idaho campus. Here's where things get a little shaky. Law enforcement confirms with News Nation, Ethan and Xana were seen at the fraternity house around 9 p.m. They reportedly made it back home around 1:45 a.m. Investigators are still trying to piece together what happened between 9 p.m. and 1:45 a.m.
Figure out who they were with, what was going on, maybe any routes or paths that they took to end up going home, those types of things. Potentially, that is critical to the investigation.
As for the 2 surviving roommates, they were also out on the night of November 12th in the Moscow community. They returned home by 1 a.m. The 2 surviving roommates did not wake up until later in the morning on November 13th. That is when they called other friends to the house because they believed one of the second-floor victims had passed out and was not waking up. At 11:58 a.m. on November 13th, a 911 call requested aid for an unconscious person. The call was made from one of the surviving roommates' cell phones inside the residence. Multiple people talked with a 911 dispatcher before Moscow police arrived at the home. Officers discovered Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan dead inside the residence on the 2nd and 3rd floors of the home, suffering from stab wounds.
It was a pretty large knife, so it's really hard to call them puncture wounds. They were definitely stabbings, and it has to be somebody that's pretty angry in order to stab 4 people to death.
So many questions unanswered. Authorities remaining tight-lipped, saying there are many details still simply don't know. Do you know inside the house whether the victims' doors were locked into their individual rooms?
I don't know that.
Do you know were any messages left behind in the house, like almost symbols from the killer? Because sometimes in other cases, you know, if it was like a fetish killing, they would leave something on the body or write something on the wall. Is there anything like that?
I'm not aware of anything like that.
While authorities remain tight-lipped, we are learning other details from the families of the victims. At the vigil on campus Wednesday night, Kaylee's father gave insight into how close his daughter and Madison were discovered, saying the two were found together in the same bed. Earlier this week, there was confusion when law enforcement said there was a miscommunication between police and the county prosecutor about whether this was a targeted attack or not.
My understanding is the investigators believe that whoever's responsible was specifically looking at this particular residence. That's all that they can offer at this point.
The latest from police is they do think the murders were targeted, but police say they have not concluded if the target was the house or one of the occupants. Investigators have also confirmed a sixth person on the lease was not in the home at the time of the murders. And the roommates and friends who lived in this house behind me were so many things to so many people. Jokesters, a fashionista, some prolific photographers. They were really just typical college kids preparing to take on the world. Their friendships so deep.
Did anybody do their chores today? I'm just gonna do it.
The roommates could rock spot-on impressions of one another.
Gotta go, days gone. Oh, days gone.
Two of the young women grew up together. Madison Mogen, Maddie from Coeur d'Alene, and best friend Kaylee Gonzalez from nearby Rathdrum, Idaho. Roommate Xana Kernodle went to high school close by in Post Falls, and her boyfriend Ethan Chapin from out of state, Mount Vernon, Washington. All coming together at the University of Idaho, the tiny college town of Moscow.
The community is reacting with grief, concern. These were four very popular people on campus.
Emotions raw at a community vigil on campus Wednesday, including Ethan Chapin's mother.
My name is Stacy Chapin. I'm Ethan's mom.
Her 20-year-old coming to the university this fall with his brother and sister. Triplets, they were inseparable. Ethan's last day spent accompanying sister Maisie to her sorority formal. Yet the freshman was usually with his girlfriend, Xana Kernodle, a junior studying marketing and reveling in the pair's growing relationship. A proud post of Mouse and Chef, a playful version of Ratatouille.
And I want people to take this personally because she was everyone's daughter.
Kaylee Gonzalez's sister talking to News Nation's Chris Cuomo about her younger sister. Kaylee was finishing her senior year strong, with her best friend, Maddie Mogen, always at her side.
So then they went to high school together. Then they started looking at colleges. They came here together.
From tweens to Lake City High, teachers say the two girls never parted. Roommates at the University of Idaho, Maddie did join a different sorority. The live music lover showed off her marketing skills, running the social media account at the Mad Greek restaurant where she worked.
And in the end, they died together in the same room, in the same bed.
I think all the people working on trying to figure this out, and it really means a lot.
Artsy and funky Moscow, Idaho, the perfect backdrop for the college journey.
Hey guys, I know I talk about myself a lot, but like, what would you guys do in my situation?
The home on King Road, which once hosted Forever Friends, now bears visible scars of the unthinkable. 4 young lives taken, who, as shown on Xana's high school graduation cap, had their sights set on giving the world so much more.
Make sure that you spend as much time as possible with those people because time is precious and it's something you can't get back.
Just so heartbreaking what these families are going through. I had the chance to sit down with the Gonzalez family in Kaylee's home. Their loss, it is so heavy, and they have been vocal about their relentless search for justice and frustrations with the investigation. Here's part 1 of our conversation.
You know, she was hurt so bad that she was not able to recover. That is just terrible.
Oh, it's okay.
It's terrible. And I cannot fathom in my head what kind of person did this.
It's capable.
And why. I can't sleep at night. I lay in bed pondering just millions of different scenarios. And just, I want to know, but then there's stuff obviously you don't want to know, you know, but I think I want to know it all. And
you're okay.
I just don't understand why, how somebody can take somebody, four of them. It wasn't just my girl, just so savagely.
Is anyone acting differently since the murders? I mean, is there anyone that you have a weird feeling about that the girls knew or that comes to mind?
Yeah, I would say not in the immediate circle by any means, but a few of the names that have been circulating around, I think it's hard not to kind of, dig into this. And I don't know how much of that is just because we have so little information from law enforcement and how much of it really is, a sister or a father's intuition.
Can you elaborate at all? I don't know. You don't have to give a name, but I mean, is it someone that she knew or?
I have something to say about that. I just feel like there's been a couple individuals that were cleared very fast. That may not, maybe he shouldn't have been. And yeah.
Share the strong alibi.
Just really fast.
If you can dismiss.
An hour later, and we're like, what? And I don't know. I don't know anything about those individuals. I just know they were people that, definitely should have been looked at. And yeah.
I don't know what would prevent you from sharing somebody's alibi.
Yeah, I think that's what we're struggling with. So it's like, we know what we know. We've, fought for Jack, Kaylee's boyfriend, and, we still stand that way. So I did just kind of want to clear that up while we're talking through this ambiguity that, that's not what we're honing in on here.
We don't want to make more victims out of innocent people.
Exactly.
We definitely don't want to do that.
You've mentioned before that you didn't want to have a funeral right now because the killer's still out there. Is that something that you're still thinking about? Are you nervous at all? I mean, because in Moscow, we talk to students, people are really nervous there.
They should be.
Yeah.
This targeting to me, it seems behavior based. That's why I don't like it. And it kind of hits the parents against each other. So I don't like that. I just told some of the other parents today that, if your daughter is, no ill will for me, man. To me, if you go have a couple beers or go out and hang out with your friends and then come home and go to bed, if that's your target, then I think we all do that. I think we all come home and go to our beds. Yeah. So
it's kind of a bad word then. It doesn't really make sense in some ways.
Exactly.
Even the prosecutor told me that.
Yeah.
He said, I think it was kind of a weird word to choose.
Yeah. I mean, if it makes sense if there was some bad behavior that they did, let's say, I don't know, they came from a strip club or something, and then somebody followed them home. That's a targeted thing. That's what I've had innocent people that were interviewed that were their neighbors, and they said, I'd be a lot more scared if it wasn't targeted.
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing anything to target me. And I'm like, well, if targeting is just going to bed with your friends.
So maybe that was just a way to calm people down?
I feel like it was strategic.
Yeah.
It was a strategic way to keep people from hitting the door, transferring out, and turning that place into a ghost town. So,
You never think you're going to lose your little sister.
Yeah.
Ever. You never think you're going to have to bury your daughter.
Absolutely unbelievable. It's nothing compared to the pain that I feel.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's several things. It's her age. It's how it happened.
So life.
Why it happened. Who did this to her?
Just graduated.
Who did this to her and her friends? The fact that she was with her best friend. Since they were little girls.
That family tonight is so heartbroken. I've been in touch with them. It's literally unimaginable to think about what they are going through, but they are so determined to find this killer, and they say they are going to keep the pressure on the police until that happens. Okay, coming up, we're going to talk more about that breaking news that we learned about just tonight about the condition of the bodies. We are live tonight from Moscow, Idaho. Up next, Xana's mom breaks her silence for the first time.
We need more answers.
And internet sleuths are on the case.
And this is my theory on multiple parts of the case, okay?
But when does it help the investigation and when does it go too far? I'm Brian Enton, live in Moscow, Idaho tonight. The murder mystery has reignited the murder here. The online sleuthing community who gained notoriety during the search for Gabby Petito in 2021. We are talking about the armchair detectives, people who sift through social media looking for any possible clue. And in the vacuum of information from Moscow police, their voices are louder than ever. Here's News Nation's Ashley Banfield.
What we know is that 6 missed calls were made from Kaylee to Jack's phone, her ex-boyfriend.
From the start, amateur investigators shared their theories on the Moscow, Idaho quadruple murders. The case has gripped the nation. People are craving as much information as possible, trying to put the pieces together themselves.
About these slings in Moscow, Idaho.
I'm wondering if it was a friend, not one of the roommates.
This is just as pretty much everybody talking about this case, pure speculation.
Partly fueled by a lack of information from the police.
Everybody has an opinion and they want to come out and say it. And so what that does is that detracts from the public's ability to trust the information that's out there.
Police have always had to work around rumors. They sift through leads, discarding the hoaxes and the hearsay to try to get to the credible tips. But the sheer volume of tips in this case could take a toll on police resources. But they could also crack the case. Nearly 500 digital media tips have come in to an FBI page dedicated to the case. The Moscow police are on patrol, both on their website and during their news conferences. Often, the rumors get started on social media.
Okay, I have no qualifications to speak on the Idaho murders other than the fact that I just have been keeping up with them. And this is my theory on multiple parts. Okay.
Social media sites seizing the moment, setting algorithms to gain traction on the Idaho case. TikTok posts with the hashtag Idaho Murders have more than 90 million views. Reddit forums with 27,000 members, and private Facebook groups, each with tens of thousands of people, are all talking about the Idaho murders and are ripe with wild speculation, many delving into Kaylee, Xana, Madison, and Ethan's own social media accounts. But these crowdsourced investigations can also ruin lives as they track down so-called suspects on their own. First, it was the young man in the hoodie seen at the food truck in a video that surfaced days after the murders. Police were flooded with questions about who he was.
I think a lot of people were curious about that person. We were able to identify him.
Police have since cleared that man, but online sleuths soon turned their attention to a new suspect, a neighbor of the victims named Jeremy Reagan. He's a third-year law student at the University of Idaho and gave a TV interview about the comings and goings at the house where the kids were murdered. He admits that he'd given a nervous smile while talking about the crime. Some viewers took issue and made him a target. Soon he moved from target to suspect, and it was open season on the internet.
People online have just been ruthless. They went through and gone through all of my social media history over the past decade, partly because of all the reports that the people had sent in about me and the interview I did.
Reagan has spoken with the police and even volunteered his DNA. But when he didn't hear back from the officers, he simply went to the station himself and gave police a sample. But as amateur investigators continue to dig deep into his personal life, contacting his friends and his family, Jeremy is now so concerned that he carries a pistol for protection. Amateur detectives have had some success before. During the Gabby Petito case, social media hashtags exploded with billions of views. It was social media users that put many of the pieces together and gave police strong clues as to where to look. Back in Moscow, Idaho, with every day that the 4 murders go unsolved, the online investigative community is sure to grow, each wanting to be the cyber sleuth that unlocks the mystery and solves the crime. But at what cost to the professional investigators and to the public?
And Ashley Banfield joins me now. Ashley, you have been on this story since the very beginning. You've been doing it every single night on your show. We know with the Gabby Petito case, the online sleuths really had an impact, helped solve what happened. Do you think that could happen in this case?
So the reality is, Brian, that every police officer will tell you when trying to solve a case, there is no detail that is too small. And they ask the public to bring forth any details because sometimes that minute detail can be the linchpin that opens up an entire other set of facts. Well, I don't know how many total officers have eyes on this, but it's upwards of maybe somewhere below 100. And with the online community, they may be able to triangulate some details between photos that may go missed by the detectives on the case. So in one circumstance, it is highly effective to have that many more eyes that could point out something that's critical to the case. But as we just heard, it can also be detrimental, Brian, to Jeremy Reagan and people like him who all of a sudden become targets for attacks. And those attacks can be relentless. I will also say this, Brian, it is not as though an online community hasn't had incredible success before. You mentioned Gabby Petito. There was also a serial killer in Canada that the online community found before the police found him, and the police ignored them. So there are some lessons to be learned from that, and there are some things the community can actually help with in terms of investigation.
And you mentioned Jeremy. I saw him on your show the other night. He actually lives right down the way here. I can see his apartment from where I'm standing. You can't help but feel bad for that guy. I heard him on your show say that he actually went to the police station to give up his own DNA just because he wanted to clear his name. All right, Ashley, don't go anywhere because we are going to talk to you about this breaking news that we talked about at the top of the show, the new revelations that we have confirmed about the conditions of the bodies, what that might mean in terms of who was targeted. We're going to get to that coming up right after this break. We are live from Moscow, Idaho tonight.
Still ahead, a confounding crime scene. How did a killer seemingly go in and out of the house without a trace? And reality is not always what you see on TV.
We call it the CSI effect, that some people think, well, we should be able to do this.
Our exclusive look inside the Idaho State Crime Lab.
I'm Brian Entin, live in Moscow, Idaho tonight, where we continue to look into the murders that happened in the house behind 4 innocent college students now 3 weeks ago. Still no significant developments, still no named suspect, still no named persons of interest. I want to bring back in Ashley Banfield. And Ashley, I've been looking forward to this because I want to talk to you about this new information that we confirmed just before the special today. The new information is that Kaylee Gonzalez's injuries were significantly more brutal. That is what I can say, significantly more brutal than her best friend Maddie's injuries. What do you make of that new piece of information, Ashley?
Well, it's astounding, for one, because this is the first time, Brian, that you've been able to get the kind of information that helps us to perhaps try to figure out why this happened. Not saying this is definitive, but it certainly is one additional clue as to whether perhaps Kaylee might have been the target. But you got more information that makes it almost more complicated, and that is where the girls were found. So walk us through what you discovered today, because many of us didn't know which room when Kaylee's father said they were found in the same room and in the same bed.
Yeah, let me show you, Ashley. I want to take you up the hill here and get you oriented. This is the front of the house. There's now private security out front. And oh my, because it's snowing and it's very, very slippery. But we're going to walk you up to the back of the house. No windows on the side of the house. You've got the front door obviously on the front, which we know has the coded lock. On the back of the house, though, is where the bedrooms are. Confirmed that Kate injuries.
Brian, I think we just lost your mic, and I'm not sure. There, you're back. Can you just repeat what you said in the last 10 seconds? Your mic went dead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was explaining that we confirmed that Kaylee's injuries were more significantly brutal than Maddie's. We've also confirmed that they were on the 3rd floor. I'm going to have Mo show you. 3rd floor here, where not easy access. You've got the balcony. There's a slider. You can't easily jump up there. So what this has us wondering, Ashley, and I want you to kind of walk through this with me. If Kaylee's injuries were the most severe up on the 3rd floor, and there's no way out of the 3rd floor, would that mean the killer specifically targeted the 3rd floor? Because it doesn't make any sense. Why would the killer go up to a floor where there would not be an easy exit for him? What do you make of that, Ashley?
Well, it's significant in that we still don't know where the killings began. Did they begin on the 2nd floor where Xana Kernodle's room was? And of course, Ethan had been staying over that night. And we now know that that room was the room on the far side of the house. So not that side of the house that you're on right now, on the other side of the house at the front of the house. That's Xana and Ethan's. And then did they progress to the 3rd floor? And while your mic was cutting out, I think the key piece of information that the audience couldn't hear was which room upstairs on the 3rd floor the girls were actually found. That before now, we only knew they were found together, but we didn't know in Maddie's room or in Kaylee's room. And so as we look at the 3rd floor map right there, bedroom number E, or bedroom E, is Maddie's bedroom, and it looks out the back of the house. And bedroom F is Kaylee's bedroom, and it looks out the front, but also the back where the slider is. So what did you discover about which room? Maddie's room on the left or Kaylee's room on the right?
That's right. We've confirmed that they were in Maddie's room. Which is also interesting. That's something that we did not know. So Kaylee's injuries were significantly more brutal, but they were sleeping together in Maddie's room. So that helps put the puzzle together. There's also something new that helped put the puzzle together, and it was on your show. It was an exclusive interview you had on your show Friday night with Xana's mother. We had never heard from her before. She called into your show. I want to play what she said, and then we can talk about it on the other side, Ashley.
Her father mentioned to me that he had just went and replaced the lock the weekend before.
You said her father mentioned to you that they had replaced the lock?
Yes, that he had fixed it or something. But yeah, he said that he had fixed it the week before, just to make sure.
The week before.
Yeah. I do not think it was the house that was targeted. I believe wholeheartedly that it was those kids who were targeted. They weren't just acquaintances. These kids were like best friends. They practically were family. These kids were tight knit. They were good friends. They were like family. They were around each other constantly. They did everything together. How could it not be a planned thing? How could it not have been targeted?
Voice of Xana's mom here?
Okay, so yeah, I wanted to ask you, I have two significant things that stood out to me during that interview. Number one, what she said about the door locks. Number two, that she feels that, I think she put it, these kids were targeted. Talk to me about why those two things. I mean, they're new, and what do they mean?
Critical. And I just want to make sure that our viewers knew that was the voice of Xana's mom. She wasn't on video because she's so distraught. That was just her voice that we heard. But she said that the locks had been worked on by Steve, or rather by Jeff Kernodle, Xana's dad, just the weekend before. She couldn't confirm whether the lock that he had fixed was on Xana's room or whether it was a lock to the outside of the house. But I did say, did the rooms have individual locks? And she believed that Xana's room did have a lock. So very, very significant, because we've been trying to figure out, and there's a picture right there on the screen on the left-hand side is what one of the rooms in the house used to have in it, a coded lock to get to an individual bedroom, and that each bedroom had a coded lock. That was 3 years ago, and we're not sure each bedroom still has a coded lock. but it's critical because we try to figure out how to get in to a locked room and how did the door perhaps lock on the way out so that the roommates couldn't get in and thought someone was passed out on the other side. That's critical. But I also think it's very critical that she thinks that the target was the kids, not the home, and that it was someone they knew and trusted. And then one more thing, Brian, about the fact that the girls were found in Maddie's room and not Kaylee's room. I think it's important for our viewers to know that Kaylee was in the process of moving out. So it's possible that many of her things were scattered all over the bed, or the bed was in pieces or had no bedding, and that she might have been in her best friend's room. But if the killer went into Maddie's room, and yet Kaylee had more injuries, and it's dark, it's the middle of the night, this complicates things even more. Because if Kaylee was the target, then how would the killer know which one of the girls that was in Maddie's room if they were sleeping? Because they look a lot alike, and in the dark, it would be very tricky to tell. And certainly it wasn't Kaylee's room. So very, very big find that you've discovered, but even more complicating.
Yeah, certainly some big developments tonight that really help us piece together the story. Ashley, I know you've been covering this every single night on your show. You and I have been on the phone late at night discussing all of this, and we'll continue to do the same thing next week. Ashley, thanks so much for coming on tonight.
You bet.
Okay, we've still got a lot more to come. We are live in Moscow, Idaho tonight.
A News Nation exclusive, a look inside the crime lab system that handles all homicides in Idaho as we dig into the physical evidence the killer might have left behind, plus unimaginable loss.
A lot of people have been wondering if Kaylee had a stalker, if that was really true.
And new information from a family taking justice into their own hands.
We have been outside this crime scene for a week now, and there are a lot of questions about the evidence inside and what actually happens to it. And just last night, we were standing in the spot. We're pretty much here all the time for the most part. We saw detectives walking out with brown bags in their hands, but we still don't know exactly what was inside. It was an interesting development, though. There were some very, very large bags. It seemed like they went in to gather some kind of evidence and then came out about an hour later. Idaho State Police Forensic Services, they're poring over what has been taken from this scene. They've been in the home multiple times. News Nation got an exclusive look at the state crime lab. Alex Capriello joins me live now. Alex, you know, there's so much frustration among the community. So many people are wanting answers quickly because, you know, you see the TV shows. They think that they can get these results fast, but it seems like it really does take quite a bit of time.
Right, it does. That's exactly what we learned from the Idaho State Crime Lab. The fact of the matter is that this is an incredibly complex crime scene, and obviously with the killer still on the loose, every bit of evidence is crucial to try to crack this case open.
The knife, the incredible amount of blood, and the complexity of a bustling home with plenty of visitors. The forensics team is on a case like few others.
It's so very complex. We're not talking about a person that just randomly walks up on the street and stabs somebody and walks away. We're talking about 4 individuals here.
Forensics professor and Body Bags podcast host Joseph Scott Morgan also taking note of how the murderer slipped into the home on Moscow's Kings Road. No broken windows, no broken doors.
And for the investigators, that's a big piece of information. It goes from, if you're looking at a potential suspect, what level of familiarity did they have with this environment? Did they feel comfortable in it? Did they know their way around? Would they say, you know what, maybe I don't want to go in the bottom? Keep in mind, the 2 people that live downstairs, they didn't die.
And also in this case, a complicated stew of DNA from the roommates and, as a hopping college house, many guests.
It'll spin, it'll inject a blank, it'll spin back.
News Nation getting an exclusive look inside the Idaho State Crime Lab outside Boise.
So this is the DNA casework lab.
Ready for the complexity of this case and others. The lab demonstrating for News Nation how elimination fingerprinting works for cases with a crowded home or in a car with passengers.
You can see that's a really nice print that you left on the glass.
But Idaho's Director of Forensic Services reminds the public, speedy and slick TV evidence processing is not the real deal.
We call it the CSI effect. Some people think, well, we should be able to do this, but the technology doesn't exist for that yet.
Time certainly moving slowly back in Moscow with the decision to tow the victim's car weeks after the murders.
Wherever it is they're storing them, I hope that it would be at the Idaho State Crime Lab, because at crime labs, they have actual evidence processing garages. At that scene, what did they have? They had a piece of yellow tape running around that was providing security.
One solid tip bolstered by the careful processing of a single clue left behind. The best hope to find justice for 4 young lives.
Just fascinating to see inside that crime lab, the work that they do behind the scenes. Explain to us why this in particular is such a complicated scene.
Right. Well, I kind of briefly mentioned it in the story, but when you think about it, I mean, just look at it. It's a rather large house, first and foremost. 3 stories to it. That's a whole lot of evidence for investigators to comb through. And then not to mention just the proximity to where it is on the college campus. Frat row, obviously, some of the fraternities and sororities are just about 200 yards away. We're told that this was a place where people partied, people socialized. And so that's a whole lot of people that are coming in and out of this home, which could really muck up and blur some of those lines, and that evidence in there.
And I know police are remaining tight-lipped for the most part, but do we have a time frame when more of this evidence could come back, the testing?
Well, this is the benefit of actually being able to go to the Idaho State Crime Lab, right? We were able to ask them that, and they told us that they've already processed some of this evidence and they've gotten it back into the hands of the detectives. So right now, information is coming in and they are processing new information, but obviously this could take weeks as, like I mentioned, a lot of evidence to come through.
Thanks so much, Alex. Yeah, it's just fascinating to see inside that crime lab. It's not often that you get to see inside a crime lab like that. So we've still got more to come. Alex mentioned it, still evidence being taken out of the house. You saw the brown paper bags. We got that video yesterday. This is all so active. More coming up after this break, live from Moscow, Idaho.
Coming up next, a brand new revelation from the parents of Kaylee Goncalves.
Are you confident with the way they're investigating? Welcome back. There has been so much information floating around for the past several weeks about this case. Some of it is true. Some of it has obviously been rumors. And a lot of the talk has been focused on whether Kaylee Goncalves may have actually had a stalker. I asked her family to clear that up. Can you talk a little more about, a lot of people have been wondering if Kaylee had a stalker, if that was really true?
I said this, she's a pretty girl. Her friends were really pretty. So them attracting attention was pretty common wherever they went. So I think she attracted attention, whether that's a dedicated person following her around, maybe not. I do believe that the officers looked in it and I believe what they said, that there was no evidence there.
Are you confident with the way they're investigating?
I think it's hard to say this way or that. They're obviously holding it very tight to chest, which could either be a really, really great sign or a really, really bad sign. And I think depending on not even the day, the hour, especially my dad and I, we go back and forth between they got this and kind of falling apart a little bit and, really looking at specific events that have been strange or maybe should have been looked into more in our eyes.
And it really is just so heartbreaking what that family has been going through. I thank them so much for trusting me and allowing me to come into their home and talk with them. It's so easy to get caught up in the investigation, all the new nuggets that come out with things. But behind the scenes, this is really about the victims and it is about their families. The pain that is even worse because the killer is still on the run tonight. If you are watching this and you have any information about what happened here, think about those families tonight. You can stay anonymous. The number for the police is on your screen. Someone has got to come forward to ease their pain and to make this community finally feel safe again, because they don't feel safe. We are not going anywhere. We will be here covering the story. I'm Brian Entin. Thank you so much for watching this News Nation special report live from Moscow, Idaho.
Okay, that's about it. Let's see what else is. There's something else. T-Rev done a video today. What's that? I think we don't watch that.